Ever feel like you're falling behind while everyone else is passing by you financially? I used to put things off thinking I had time to catch up later, but waiting only made it harder. And I didn't grow up learning about money. I'm a first generation Korean American who started with a few $100s in my account and a negative $19,000 of student loans. But over time, I figured it out and built a $400,000 portfolio, and now my investments pay me more than my old job did. So in this video, I'm gonna show you the honest, judgment-free advice I wish I heard sooner with simple steps that helped me finally move forward that you can start using today. First, let me show you how one small shift helps my clients go from anxious and overwhelmed to confident and in control. I have a client named Mark who earns $120,000 a year working for a startup. And during our conversation, he said, I feel like I'm behind, like I should have figured this out by now. And I hear this all the time, whether someone's making $80,000, $100,000, or even $150,000. Almost everyone repeats the same line. So I usually ask a question that catches them off guard. Compared to who? And there's usually a pause because comparison is sneaky. You could be the 100th richest person on the planet worth billions and still feel like you're poor if you only look at the 99 people ahead of you, which is wild to think about, right? Like you'll still be wealthier than the vast majority of humanity, yet it still feels like it's not enough. And that's the comparison trap. Comparison shifts your lens until even your own wins start to feel like losses, simply because someone else is further along. And here's what most people miss. Money is relative and success is contextual. We judge ourselves against others, but the comparison is almost always one-sided. And we only compare upwards. And rarely do we ever look at the people behind us. We compare ourselves to people on Instagram, to college friends who just bought a house, to colleagues that got a big promotion, or to siblings who seem like they got it all together. But we often forget that there's someone out there looking at you thinking, I wish I was that far along. And that's why gratitude isn't just a fluffy Instagram quote. It's a practical way to stop feeling like you're behind. Because when you zoom out and compare your progress to your own and not someone else's highlight reel, you realize you weren't losing. You just were playing the wrong game. Take the same Mark, for example. His net worth sits at $10,000, which he felt like wasn't much. But when we dug in, we found out that just a year earlier, he was at negative $20,000. That means in 1 year, he saved $30,000. And he went from thinking I'm failing to realizing, wait, I'm actually crushing it. And the relief on his face was real. And that's the power of measuring your own journey against yourself. And some people realize that they're further along than they thought, and others may realize that they're not. But either way, they finally get an answer. And with clarity comes the permission to stop chasing this imaginary finish line and start putting energy into actually moving forward. Next, let me show you how to stop feeling behind and actually make progress without beating yourself up in the process. You probably heard the phrase, comparison is the thief of joy. And it's true. And here's what people often forget. We're not all hiking the same mountain, and we're definitely not hiking with the same gears. Some people were born halfway up an easy trail with the latest gears. They had family support, financial literacy, zero debt, and maybe they have parents who taught them about credit cards at 16. Or maybe they graduated debt-free and landed a high-paying job right away through family connections, and they never had to send money home. And others are climbing barefoot with a 50-pound backpack on steep incline. They start their climb full of student loans, caregiving responsibilities, or family obligations. And they might even have financial trauma around money that no one else sees. And from a distance, it's impossible to see what someone else is carrying or where they even started. And that's a trap. Comparison makes you feel like you're behind when you're really just on a different path with different gears and tools. And that's why comparing yourself to others isn't just unfair, it's inaccurate. You don't know the secret advantages that someone else has or the hidden battles that they're fighting. And the worst of all, it robs you of the joy that you should feel from how far you've come along in your own journey. So here's a fix that I give to my clients, and you could try it too. Grab a notepad or a spreadsheet if you feel fancy, and ask yourself two simple questions. What is my net worth today? And what was it a year ago or when I first graduated? And some people discover that their net worth has doubled. Others might see it that they barely moved or even gone backwards. But that's okay. What this exercise gives you is, again, clarity. It puts a pin on the map saying, you're here. And once you know where you are on the trail, you could course correct instead of panicking that you're behind someone else or walking in circles. Maybe your expectation needs adjusting. Maybe your plan needs to update and refresh. But most importantly, you stop wandering in the fog thinking you're lost, when in reality, you might just need to take a different path. And here's the thing about growth. It's not always obvious at the moment. Sometimes it looks like paying down your debt. Sometimes it looks like finally automating your savings. And sometimes it's as simple as not spiraling every time you make a financial decision. And when you measure against your own past and not someone else's present, you start seeing how far you've come along. But what if you're not happy with your progress And that's where most people freeze. So next, let me show you how a mindset shift could help you regain control even when you feel like you're years behind. A few years ago, when my brother was getting married, I was asked to give a speech as the best man. It was a huge honor, but also a huge responsibility. I've seen way too many bad best man speeches that I didn't want to be remembered as a brother who bombed the special moment for the rest of my life. Since I had months prepared, I kept putting it on my to-do list, and every week I would say, I'll start this weekend. But weeks turned to months and I still hadn't written a single word, but not because it wasn't important, but because it was so important that I didn't know where to begin. And I had fragments of what I wanted to say, but I didn't actually sit down and finish it until the night before. Classic. The speech turned out heartfelt, at least in my opinion. But looking back, I realized something. I wasn't procrastinating out of laziness. I was procrastinating out of perfectionism. The task felt so important that I was afraid of getting it wrong. And that's the exact same pattern I see with money. My clients often see their financial goals as so critical that they freeze. Instead of risking a mistake, they do nothing at all. Think about it. 2/3 of the Americans set a financial goal every New Year's, yet most people carry the same goals year after year because they never make progress. Not because they don't care, but because perfectionism and fear is stopping them. People aren't avoiding money moves because they're lazy, they're avoiding them because they care too much. I've had clients delay investing, budgeting, or even cooking at home, not because they don't want to, but because they're terrified of getting it wrong. And here's the truth I tell them. The cost of doing nothing is almost always higher than the cost of getting it a little wrong. Take investing for example. If you wait 5 years to start putting away $200 a month at 8% return, that delay could cost you over $240,000 by retirement. Waiting feels safe, but it's actually expensive. And we worry so much about the short-term mistakes that we ignore how much we're losing not starting at all. And that's why I tell my clients, don't chase the perfect start. Just chase a small one. Open a Vanguard or Fidelity account. Google what is an index fund. Find a simple 3-ingredient meal to cook this week. Move $10 into a savings account just to prove to yourself that you could start. Then set a deadline and tell someone, a friend, a coach, or anyone who will hold you accountable. Because the moment you shift from thinking to doing, something changes. You stop feeling powerless because you prove to yourself that actions, even tiny actions, builds momentum. And you don't need to be confident or feel like you're 100% ready. You just need to be willing to start, messy, imperfect, maybe a little awkward, and let the momentum carry you forward. Starting is hard, but once you do, the next step feels 10 times easier. And now that you've taken the first step, the next question is, where are you on the path to wealth? Because making progress is one thing, but understanding what stage you're actually in, that's the key to leveling up faster with less stress. So in this video, I'll break down the 5 levels of wealth for young professionals and help you pinpoint exactly where you are and what to focus on next.